you're going to be doing. So allowing quite a bit of time with each person. What we'll probably do is we'll just have you working in twos tomorrow to make sure that everybody gets a go, so you've got plenty of time. Obviously, there's a disadvantage that you won't have the observer. Heather and I are just going to have to rush around quite a lot to see how you're all getting on. So that's what's planned for tomorrow. So that's just a reminder of what we're doing tomorrow night. Okay, I hope that's not enough to scare you all off tomorrow. So, okay, so what we're going to move on to now, and Heather's going to take us through in a moment, is the Andrew Newton rapid relaxation induction. Okay, Andrew Newton was mainly more of a stage hypnotist, really, but he trained Paul McKenna and has written the book All in the Mind. If you want to read more about him, there's a link there, and it's a link in your handbook anyway. There's a lot of good stuff he's got to say. He is quite opinionated, and you may or may not like his approach, but it's always good to read around these things and really get a broad view of all these things. But what Andrew's done is he's developed from something he watched of Andrew Newton's years ago, his kind of own version, if you like, of using the Andrew Newton style induction, using physical relaxation. And it's a really good way to relax people quite quickly, which is why it's so good for stage hypnosis and things like that. It can also be used as part of hypnosis as well. And the technique that Andrew uses when he does this, as you'll discover, is a little bit like with the magnetic hands routine that we did a few weeks back, where you're almost kind of getting the client to do a bit of a rehearsal. So they're, a rehearsal of what they're going to be doing. And so you kind of take them through it twice to get you there. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. This is an option for you to use this tomorrow if you like this particular thing and you think it fits with whatever issue you're dealing with tomorrow. Totally up to you. But I shall hand over to you, Heather, now to take us through this, if you could.
Wow. This is kind of harder to do on Zoom because I can't see what your feet are doing. I really can't see what your hands are doing when you put your hands on your knees, but never mind. So it works a lot better in practice. Okay, so are you all sitting comfortably?
I'm going to have to dip down now, so I'll probably
you just disappear off screen. That's fine.
I'll just disappear. Okay.
Okay, sitting comfortably so that your feet are on the floor. And if you're like me, you can be very challenged in that way, because if I can sit with my feet on the floor, I'm not now sitting comfortably. If I'm sitting comfortably, I can't reach my feet to the floor, but never mind. Okay, are we all there? Some are there. Okay. Right. So what I want you to do is rest the back of your hands on your legs. Okay, so back of your hands on your legs, palms facing upwards. Okay, and then just push them a bit further forward towards your knees. So you just build up a little bit of tension in the elbows. You build up a little bit of tension in your arms. Okay. And while you're holding that position, I want you to lift your toes off the floor. Keep your heels on the floor. And just lift your toes off the floor. And you can just feel the tension in your thighs, and your shins and your calves. Okay. And then I want you just to tip your head back slightly, not too far, and just look at a spot in the ceiling. Okay. Okay, and then I want you to close your eyes down. Your head comes forward onto your chest. Your hands turn back over, so your palms are on your legs and move back towards your body. And finally, you can put your feet flat on the floor. And just feel the difference, that relaxation. Okay, so that's what we're doing. So let's run through that one more time. Okay, so sitting nice and comfortably. Backs of your hands on the top of your legs, palms facing upwards, and then just push them slightly forward towards your knees. Just build up that tension. And then with your feet on the floor, just lift your toes up and keep your heels on the floor. And build up the tension in your legs. And then just look at a spot on the ceiling. And when you next breathe out, just close your eyes down. And on the next breath, just let your head come back down forward onto your chest. On the next breath, just turn your hands over and let them come back towards your body. And on the next breath out, just lower your feet to the floor. Just letting all that tension go. Nice and easy. Nice and gentle. Okay. So this time we'll just do it with the Andrew Newton stroke Andrew Parr words. But that's what we're going to be doing. Okay, any questions? No, everyone okay? Okay, so make sure you're comfortable. Now what I'd like you to do is rest the back of your hands on your knees so that your palms are facing upwards. And if you stretch your arms forward a little towards your knees and hold that position for a while, you actually start to get tension around the inner joints of your elbows and the top of your forearms inside. The next thing I'd like you to do is curl up your toes, lift your toes off the ground. Your heels stay where they are and your toes curl upwards. And this creates tension in the top of the foot. And if you hold this for a little while, that tension builds up along your legs too. Now I want you to tilt your head slightly back and look up towards the ceiling. Look at an imaginary spot or a real spot on the ceiling and just focus your gaze there for a while. I also want you to begin breathing in and out through your mouth now. Just breathing in through your mouth, down into your belly, so your tummy expands, your belly expands, your ribs expand at the side of your breath. And as you breathe out, just letting go like a sigh of relief. Now looking up at the spot in the ceiling, breathing in and out through your mouth now. Next time you breathe out, just keeping everything else the same, just close down your eyes. That's nice. Taking slow, deep breaths and exhaling gently now. And the next time you breathe out, I want you to let your head tilt forward as if your head is nice and heavy, the same way you do when you feel tired and sleepy, just allowing your head to relax forward towards your chest. That's good. Just keeping everything else the same, just letting your head relax forward as far as it wants to go each time you breathe out. And each breath beginning to feel more like a sigh. And as you breathe out this time, I want you to turn your hands over so that they're now facing palms down. Just turn your hands over and bend your elbows so that your arms relax onto your legs and come closer to your body. Just feel the tension draining from your arms as you do that. Breathe in once again big, slow, deep breath into the tummy. And as you breathe out this time, make your shoulders sag right down, just making those shoulders sit right down. And that's good. And again, a nice big deep breath in through your mouth, down into your tummy. And this time, as you breathe out, just relax your toes. At last, you can relax your toes. Relax your feet and your toes. And as you do that, so the whole of the rest of your legs begins to relax as well. Calves, shins, ankles, your feet, your toes. They can just relax all the way down. And that's good. And once more, a nice big deep breath in through your mouth, into your tummy. This time, as you breathe out, imagine that the whole of the top of your body is beginning to feel very loose, very limp, very lazy. The same way it would if your muscles were turning to jelly for a while, as if they were becoming very soft, like melting butter. And as you do this, you can notice the feelings, the sensations in your hands, resting on your legs, your feet resting on the ground. These may be very subtle, very simple, everyday feelings, but probably not the kind of feeling you're used to focusing on until now. Inner feelings, inner sensations in your hands, in your fingers, even right down to the very tips of your fingers and the tips of your toes. And that's good. Now in your mind, I want you to feel, sense, picture, or imagine that you're looking out over a very beautiful cityscape. A nighttime city scene with beautiful skyscrapers with lots of lovely lights on. Sometimes those scenes can seem quite magical with all the little lights on. And perhaps you may choose a different scene, such as a little fishing village or something entirely different. But starting from the buildings furthest away, I want you to switch off those lights now. I want you to switch off those lights just one by one. And as you switch the lights off, so you switch off the feelings and sensations in your muscles for a little while. Everything just letting go. Just switching off for a while. Take your time. Watch the lights go out as you switch those lights off. And as you switch those lights off, you're left relaxing in a very comfortable darkness, and that's okay. Just relaxing down now, the same way you do when you're drifting off into a deep and restful sleep. Now, this took just a few minutes to get you to this point, or should I say it took you a few minutes to get yourself to this point. And I want you to notice how much more relaxed you feel right now, after just a few moments. and realize that this is a skill like any other. And each and every time you do this, your mind and your body will remember and make it easier and easier for you to do it the next time, and the next, and the next, and the next. So just relax, enjoying a few moments of peace and quiet with your thoughts. Very gently now, just going to count from 1 to 3. Just take a deep breath in as we count 1, becoming a bit more aware of your body, feeling your hands and your feet. And 2, knowing your body will remember how to do this. And it's okay to feel this relaxed anytime you want. And that's okay. And 3, coming back to this time, this place, this room, opening your eyes, coming all the way back, nice and easy, nice and gentle.
Oh, that was lovely, Heather. I think I'm going to go to sleep now.
And we haven't got them all back yet.
Oh dear, I really needed that today. That was perfect. Thank you. How did you all find that one? Any comments about how that was in relation to other inductions that we've done? How whether it was something that worked for you or didn't, or?
I like the second half.
The second half, okay. Oh, what the actual sort of kind of deepener and yeah, that was lovely actually. It's a nice way, isn't it, to close down. Oh, I'm really sleepy now.
I liked it how you could tense your arms, actually physically do it, and the toes.
Yeah.
Then you could feel like the relaxation once you've relaxed them body parts.
I found that with that one, I find that I'm desperate for my feet to go down.
Yeah.
This is like, oh, please, I just want to give in now. So it really kind of works, doesn't it, in that? I think the only thing I find is being upright is my head falling forward feels uncomfortable sometimes. But because you're sort of relaxing into your chest, aren't you? And I felt like that was pulling sometimes. But I think it's really quite an effective one for me personally. But thank you for that, Heather. Anybody else got anything else on opinions wise as to how that worked for them in comparison to others that we've done?
I'm the opposite to Siri, because the second part of it where you have to imagine lights and that going off.
Yeah.
I don't have an imagination. So I kind of have to put myself in, I basically just had to picture myself in a corridor and flicking light switches because I can't imagine anything else.
But that's absolutely fine.
Whatever
it is for you. I so often say to clients, that it's, you can give them something, but if you don't picture and imagine exactly what I'm telling you, that's okay. It's whatever is there for you. And that's part of working with the client, really, isn't it? Is understanding what works for them. And I guess if somebody was working with you now, you're not Ellie, Rachel, they would work with your, what works for you. So, yeah.
Well, funnily enough, I had a practice with Barbara.
Yeah.
And the induction, she's laughing about it already. The induction she was using, I I just don't imagine, I can't imagine anything. And it's going to sound so strange, but the only thing I could relate to it was being on Star Trek on the Starship Enterprise, and looking out of a window. I don't know why, but that's where my imagination took me.
That's great though. That makes sense for you. That's absolutely fine.
Well, I can go with that.
Yeah. I think that is
As long as I can have Patrick Stewart next to me.
fair enough.
My only concern about doing the Andrew Newton technique is when you get someone to tip their head back, try not to, I said tip it back slightly, because if you're going to start getting neck strain, that's the only bit. So just ask them to move their head back just slightly.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I think you could have it if you had a supported chair, couldn't you, where they're actually not going to knock their head.
Yeah, when we did it in proper chairs, but you do it and you make sure you fold them down fairly quickly, so you don't keep them in that position too long, and you don't ask them to go all the way back there, because that could do a bit of damage. So just tipping your head back a little bit.
That was the only thing I found, the strain on the neck leaning forward. Actually, I could feel my head falling, and I just was like, oh, that bit is not the relaxing bit, but everything else was.
Yeah, I tend to go to the side.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is. I always go that side.
But I think, I mean, as I say, what Rachel's saying, and I'm sure with all of you, we all have our own imaginations. And I think when you're working with clients, whatever you're working with, try and find out what it is for them, and actually just reassure them that whatever they're seeing, feeling, sensing is fine. That's what it's all about. It isn't about getting it right. And I think sometimes you will find, particularly a client that's suffering from anxiety, they think, oh, I can't do it. I'm not doing it right. There is no right. It's what works for you. So, but thank you very much, Heather. I thoroughly enjoyed that. That was just what I needed after today. So, okay, so let's get back to where we were. Bear with me a second. Right. Okay, so moving on then. So you should be nice and relaxed now, feeling ready, hopefully not too sleepy. We're going to talk about, going back, setting meaningful goals for your clients. So obviously when somebody comes to see you, they've got something they want to achieve, haven't they? They might be wanting to lose weight, they might be wanting to get over a particular habit. There's all sorts of things that they might want to do. But it's actually about helping them to set meaningful goals that will make sense to them. And that might mean more than just I'm going to lose weight. It might be more about how they're going to feel when they've lost that weight, and how that's going to change their life. So in order to sort of set a meaningful goal, it's helping you to sort of understand exactly what the client wants to achieve from this. So what is their expectation, not just of you, but of themselves at the end of this? And it also gives you a way of monitoring their progress along with them as they work towards those goals. So just some of the principles that Andrew encourages us to bear in mind when we're doing this is obviously identify what your client really wants to work on. And you need to get into the habit of working with your client, taking notes without looking like you're working into your notes too much. As I said, I think a couple of times I've said, I do think I'm looking at the clients and I'm probably writing gobbledygook, but I'm writing something down. But make sure that you are taking notes on what it is they really want to work with. So you can always bring it back to that when you're talking to your client each time you see them. Keep those goals very positive and quite specific. And we're going to talk about how to break those down into much more manageable steps. I think we all know if you've got a big goal of any sort, it always helps to break it down. Even if you're a designer and you might have a big project that you need to design, there is a design process as such that you work through, which is like a cycle of breaking things down. And that's what we're going to really look at, how we can do this with clients as well. Discussing how the client will know when they've resolved their issue, and we'll come to that a little bit more in a minute. And a lot of that is going to be around how they feel will be when they've achieved or resolved that issue. You can sometimes set them homework, in a sort of CBT sort of way, which might be part of their goals. That might help them to feel. And a lot of this is going to depend on how that client works, and that's part of you getting to understand them, understand what it is that works for them, because some people do like you to set homework for them. I have clients and they say, well, you know, what do you want me to do this week? Other people don't really want to do that, you know, so it really does vary. Again, it's very individual. Also very important in the therapy in general, and I'm sure any of you that are already working as a therapist, it's really important that the client understands this is a collaboration. It's a two-way goal. It's a two-way thing. You know, you're not going to wave a magic wand and make it all okay for them. They need to feel motivated, but they also need to understand their part of the bargain. You know, what do they have to do to make this work? And, you know, this is important with any client that comes to see you. And it's something that you'll pick up quite often when you're even talking to the client on the phone, is how sort of invested are they in this? How invested are they in this goal? Are they just saying, oh, you can sort it, you know? So it really is about getting them invested in that goal and having positive intention to actually make a change. But you will hear certain people that say, oh, well, you know, I went to a hypnotherapist and it didn't work. Didn't work because actually they weren't invested in it, you know? So that's really, really important. Also, depending on what that goal is, what it is they're trying to achieve, perhaps sometimes establishing some sort of timescale for them to work with is a good idea. So they can chart their progress as you can with them. And again, this is different. I bring it back to weight loss again, because that is something that works very well with this, because quite often people have a very definite target about what they want. They might have a wedding they're going to in the family that's really important, and they're working towards that. So they have a time scale which you can help them to break down with the different things that you're going to do along the way. So it does really help if they can see. It's a bit like knowing where you're going, really. You know, if you get in a car and you don't know which direction to go, you're not going to go anywhere, are you? So it's having a map, in a sense, of where you're going and heading in that way, and helping them to go there too. So what Andrew's developed is something called a goal achievement plan. Now, obviously, you might tweak this with your clients depending on what they need to do, or what they want to achieve at the end of this. But Andrew's developed this goal achievement plan based on a lot of other things he's seen and worked with over the years. So it's shortened to GAP. You'll see it's written as GAP, and it's just to help people achieve their goals. But not just the big goal. It is about sort of having a big dream and a big vision. And that big dream and vision might not be just, you know, what that one thing is. It might be, as I said, more about how they want to feel as a person emotionally and all the rest of it at the end of it. But it's the big overall goal or vision that they're aiming for. But quite often what you find, and I'm sure you've all spoken to people that do this, is they'll go, you know, again, I'm bringing it back to weight loss because it's just a good example of when somebody is heading for a goal. The minute they fall off the wagon, if you like, and they've eaten that thing, it's just like, oh, I failed, you know, I'm not going to make that goal. And they're so focused on that end vision and that end goal that it demotivates them as they go. And it creates that sort of not enough feeling, not good enough feeling, you know, feeling a bit sort of powerless and annoyed with yourself. You know, they when you speak to a lot of weight loss clients, you know, they'll say, oh, I just feel so guilty, I feel so angry with myself, you know, and you just create this vicious cycle. But what we want to do is create a much more positive cycle, what Andrew refers to as a virtuous cycle. Okay, so that you're actually not having these negative feelings. So you're taking a much more step-by-step process, which will actually help them to work towards that dream or that vision, rather than just the minute something goes wrong, they feel like, oh, they failed, you know, and you get that overall sense of failure and the fact that this dream is just going to stay a dream and it's just forever going to be a dream and that's it. And so many people do that. They'll set themselves a massive, unsustainable goal, and then they just feel like that the minute something goes wrong, they're not recognizing the process, they're not recognizing their progress, they're just realizing the fact that they've just, you know, it's not going to happen, and then they become very negative. So this goal achievement plan is about trying to sort of keep it positive as we go and break it down and making it a bit more of a gentle process, so that your clients are going to feel like they're actually achieving something, they're actually getting somewhere. And each little step, if you like, is an achievement in itself. Okay, so the goal and achievement plan is about taking the focus away from the end result to some extent. And I do find quite often sometimes somebody might have a big goal, and actually somewhere along the line to that goal, they realise they don't need that major goal at the end because they've already achieved how they want to feel. And again, it's classic with weight loss that people think, well, if I can just be that amazing size and fit into that dress and everything's going to be perfect and my life will be better. But sometimes as you work through that process, you come across other things and you realise that actually, or they realise that they don't need all of that. They can be happy in a different way. So by sort of working with this goal and achievement plan, what you're focusing on is actually creating the right sort of conditions and environment for them to actually work towards this end result and actually that dream to be realised. So just increasing those chances. And Andrew summarises that as being about the process, not just the results. And you can relate this to so many different areas of life, can't you? That actually so much of what we're working towards, part of it's enjoying that process. So recognising how well you did today, not how badly you did, and actually, that's it, I'm not going to achieve my goal. It's actually focusing on the positives as much as you can. So the plan's essentially divided into these two sections: the dream, which is the big picture, and then these stepping stone boxes, which are all about sort of almost like tactics, if you like, or a strategy that are going to lead you towards getting that final goal. And it is, as I said, it's an amalgamation of things that Andrew's worked with over the years in lots of different contexts, and he's found that this is a really good way to sort of achieve success, certainly for your clients to achieve success. So this is a diagram that Andrew's put together, and this is just, again, this is based around perhaps a sort of a well-being health kind of thing here. So you've got your dream and your vision here at the top, where you would get your client to almost create a scene in their mind of how they would feel, look, how they'd feel emotionally, if they could achieve that goal. So, as I said, it's more than just about somebody that wants to lose weight fitting into that lovely short red dress that they really want to wear. It's more about how they're going to feel at the end of that. What's that going to do for them if they can actually achieve that? And there's lots of other things here. I mean, Andrew's given us some examples here of, it could be completing this course, could be getting your first paying client, fitting into something that you really want to, winning a competition, gaining promotion, loving relationships, forming a loving relationship, completely transforming your health and fitness. Just pretty much anything that's important to you might go in that dream and vision. Okay, so it might not be more than probably just one word. It's going to be a little bit bigger than that because it's going to be an overall feeling. And then when you look at the bottom here, you've got these boxes, what Andrew refers to as the stepping stones, as the ways in which you're going to get there. Now, these are going to be different with each client. In this one, it's broken down into the health, eating and nutrition, actions that might be taken, attitudes of mind, what beliefs and emotions might be part of that, and then the reality of actually shifting the identity of that person to achieve and realize that dream or vision. And so much of this, again, like so much of what we're doing, is about shifting identity, isn't it? It's about changing perspective about how that person feels about themselves if they can attain that particular goal, whatever that may be. And that goal might actually be to stop something rather than to achieve something. They're all going to be very different. So the stepping stones are a way, as I said, they're the specifics, the tactics that you will break down in that conversation with your client to help them to create those conditions which will sort of increase the likelihood of actually them achieving that dream. And as long as they're actually working on these little sort of smaller stepping stones, if you like, all of the time they're achieving, they're working towards it. So they're feeling the positiveness of working towards that goal. And it could be a tiny thing that they might be doing, but instead of focusing on the fact that maybe they did it wrong today or they didn't do what they wanted to do, they're focusing on those smaller goals So it's not rocket science, really. It's breaking down one massive task into something smaller so that you can feel the benefit on a sort of a daily basis, maybe even minute by minute basis, by doing something different. So psychologically, you're keeping your client feeling more positive, feeling like they're actually achieving something, they're remaining successful, even though that goal might be 6 months down the line, it might be 3 months down the line, whatever it is. So their quality of life while they're doing this is actually improving all the time as they're watching their progress. So as I said, creating this virtuous cycle as opposed to a vicious cycle or circle, and just keeping them motivated, because I think we all know, if you put negative stuff out there, you get more of it. Okay, so it's creating that nice positive feeling. There's a nice little quote here by Earl Nightingale: success is a progressive realization of a worthy goal or ideal. So you're working towards that. So in terms of these goals, now, when somebody comes to you with some big goal that they really want to achieve, there's never any 100% guarantee they're going to get exactly what they want. If they want to lose 3.5 stone in 3 months, they might not actually get exactly that. You know, they might not be, you know, the best singer in the show or the best performer. They might not have the most successful business, but by working with the stepping stones, they're going to get a lot closer to it. And that positivity is going to keep them going rather than make them think, oh, I might as well just give up. So, you know, in terms of life, as I say, we all know there's lots of variables that might get in the way of us actually achieving what we want exactly. But using this plan, you can 100% guarantee that they are moving towards that goal rather than stopping in their tracks or moving backwards from it, because they're realizing it in these small stages. So there is always a much better chance that they're going to realize that final goal. Okay, and you're keeping them happy as they're working towards it. So it's a really good way and a really positive way of actually working towards a goal. Oops. Move. Okay, so developing that goal, ways to do this. And as I said, a lot of this is going to happen in general conversation. You don't have to use this exactly as is when you're working with your clients. I'd suggest you probably do while you're practicing with it. But there's lots of different ways in which to set goals. And a little bit like when we talked about clients who wanted to be more away and stop doing something, or more forward and start doing something better, you have the same with these goals. Some people will just want something completely practical and achievable. Some people need a big dream and something completely inspirational to work towards. It's always a good idea to have some element of inspiration, because they need a big enough why. And you know what, they need to have the need and real reason to do something. And so much of what you'll find when you're working with your clients is finding out what is their motivation. What is it that makes them want to give up smoking, for example? What are those factors that are going to be the thing that makes them actually work towards this in the first place? So going back to looking at these two types of goals, you've got the SMART goal, which I'm sure a lot of you have already heard, used quite often in education and in the corporate environment. Basically specific, measurable, achievable, relevant and time bound, which is really, you know, to some extent it needs to be a little bit like that. But some people will need those bigger goals that are a little bit more out there, with that feeling that, you know, they're almost impossible, but why not? You know, that very creative person is not going to ask, you know, how they're going to say why not. And so it is good to have an element of inspiration there that actually keeps them going towards it and gives them a reason, gives them real motivation, as well as what you need to go with that, which is obviously that discipline, the focus and the boring bit, if you like. Okay, but the practical goals are what will help them, and that's those smaller goals, if you like. That's what will help them to get to the bigger goal. Okay, so that inspirational goal is really the big dream that you need to get to grips with your client, and that's going to help them. And in order to get to that goal, again, we're looking for a major shift in their identity and their perspective and beliefs on the world, in the world. So that's what you're really trying to achieve. Okay, so as I said, it's really important for the degree to be inspiring, at least to some degree. As I said, everybody will be different. But sometimes it's finding what it is that really is going to make that shift. I had a client recently who wanted to lose weight and wanted to be more fit. And he'd even been told by his doctor that if he didn't do something about it, you know, his liver was a problem and he could end up with heart disease and all of these things. But that clearly wasn't a big enough reason. And we're still working on it. So he's not solved yet. But it's getting to what it is that's going to really make that inner shift. What's his why? What's really going to make it something that will make him do that? Because clearly the need to do it isn't enough. It isn't enough that he has to, because if he doesn't, he might die. There's got to be something beneath that. So that's where we're still working on that. So it's finding out what each individual's real motivation is and what it is that's going to make them commit to what it is they need to do. Because most people, you know, particularly again in somebody that wants to give up smoking, wants to lose weight or whatever, they all know how to do it. It's just about getting that motivation to do it. So, you know, if somebody comes in and they haven't got that, you're going to really struggle if you can't find that motivation and get them to be committed to that goal. So that's really important. And that's where, again, it comes back to digging deeper to find out, you know, what we might have missed. You know, how can we dig deeper to find out what is it that we really need to help increase their motivation, to help them to go towards that goal. There's a few questions here that are sort of coaching type questions. So what will happen if I don't achieve this? What will happen if I, what won't happen if I don't achieve this? What will happen if I do achieve this? What won't happen if I do achieve this? What won't happen? Sorry, can't get my words out tonight. Okay, so getting that sort of that why, that commitment and everything is really, really important. Okay, so just some more goal setting tips here. Encourage your client to think big, as we said. The more likely that goal is bigger, again, dependent on the client, but the more likelihood is that you're going to get them to make a shift. It does need to be believable. They need to believe and imagine, because this is all about using your imagination at the end of the day, that that's a possibility, you know, to be able to perhaps visualize or feel that they can be that person that they're going to be if they make these changes. They need to be specific, particularly in relation to how they want to feel. So you need to be looking for those key words and phrases that will help you to create some of those positive mantras for them and help them towards achieving that goal as well. What thoughts and beliefs do they need to have to get to this goal? How is their outlook and life going to change, and which is going to kind of become part of their new identity as well. And again, as I said, going back to those specifics about the feelings, because those feelings are going to really provide that sort of commitment, that inspiration and motivation for the stepping stones that you're going to create with them. And once you've got that goal, you know, even if it seems like it might be a long way away, it might be big at the moment, then you can start to help them develop what those tactics are and those steps that they can work towards in those stepping stone boxes. And it's important to remember what the mind can conceive and believe the mind can achieve. Okay, so I'm sure you've all heard that one before, and that's what we're all about, isn't it? That's what we're doing here. So that's what you're helping people to do. Okay, now this is just a breakdown of creating those stepping stone boxes, and this is using again examples that Andrew's given us here on practical steps that you might sort of create here by developing these mini goals. And those categories, as I said, they are going to really vary depending on what it is that your client is trying to achieve. So, you know, you could have a box for health and exercise, and you might get them to start by doing one small thing to get them started. You know, it could be just, you know, I won't eat biscuits this week or whatever it is. But, you know, even so that they can start to feel that what they're doing is making a difference. If it's exercise, it might be that, you know, I'm always going to walk up the stairs, I won't take the lift. Just one small thing is going to be moving them towards something more positive. So they're going towards their target. Eating and diet, it could be I might just cut alcohol out this week. Performance, it's all about what can they do to make a difference right now. So literally before they even leave your therapy room, they're already starting on those stepping stones. They're already making those changes, and they're working and walking towards that target, sort of from the minute they leave, or even before they leave, in actual fact. Their attitude, as I said, a massive thing here. Change in attitude, it could be all sorts of things, but that is going to have a massive and immediate positive impact on how they start to see things. And even the introduction of those stepping stones is going to give them that feeling of the fact that, this is achievable. I can work through this. It doesn't all have to happen. It doesn't have to look at that big goal and it looks so impossible. You're breaking it down for them from the minute that you start. Their beliefs, what do they need to believe in order to realise that goal, which is obviously what we're going to be trying to help them with, and helping to reinforce those beliefs. And the more they start working towards that, the closer they're getting to changing those beliefs. And that will lead to reality shifting. And that will be happening almost without them realising it sometimes. So, it's all about creating that new reality for them, so that it becomes part of who they are. And that big identity shift. So who do they need to be in order for what it is they want to become sustainable, for them to let go of something, to be towards something, to be basically feeling different than they do at that point in time. So, a really good way to break things down. So putting it into practice, it's dedicating a portion of time, just a few minutes a day even, just focusing their mind as well on that new reality, which you can help them to develop these sort of positive mantras by applying this principle of the stepping stone boxes. So, it's working towards that. So, if you nice quote here by Andrew, actually, if you wish to win a bicycle race, it doesn't matter how positive your visualization is that you do, at some point you actually have to just get on the bike and start pedaling. And that is what you're getting them to do before they even leave. Just start, just get them going, and get them to start implanting these ideas in their mind, to start working towards shifting that reality. Okay, just one final thing on the goal achievement plan, where it is all about having the right attitude, the right emotions, the right inspiration, all of this thing, it's all going to work towards it. These feelings are almost definitely going to be a reflection of their core beliefs. So we're still looking for those core beliefs. So you remember your enoughness, safety, control, acceptance, pleasure, and finally enlightenment, when they can actually achieve what they want to achieve. So that's where they get that freedom, that new perspective, and that feeling of physical lightness as well, as they start to work towards what it is they really, really want. So often it's going to come back to these again. So important to remember that too. Just another nice little quote here from Andrew. Above all else, I choose peace. If we probe deeper still into the reasons for each of the goals or the different areas of change, what we really want is peace. And what I've found is if you make a sense of peace your primary goal, whilst focusing on your everyday goals, it tends to put you in a better frame of mind by achieving them and it. I then combine this with statements from the boxes to create a lot of the mantras and suggestions, but remembering that above all else, what we really want is peace. So it's a much bigger overall you're aiming for. Okay, so you might have a surface want at the end of that, which might be, wearing a wonderful dress at their daughter's wedding that they can fit into, but ultimately it's going to be about how they feel and what the emotions are behind that, and that feeling of peace and that change of identity. Okay, so that's a bit about the goal and achievement plan. And I'm going to, after we've just talked a little bit about the power within you suggestions, which you might want to add into this, or you might even want to add into what you're doing tomorrow in the practice. This is another thing that Andrew uses in a lot of his sessions that you'll notice, and I found it's also a very useful thing. It's the Power Within You suggestions, which he adapted ideas from something he saw written down in I think it was a local hall that he'd been to. And the sign said, "The challenges ahead of you are nothing compared to the power within you," which works so well with what we do in hypnosis, because we're all about empowering each individual to make those changes for themselves. We're just facilitating that change with them and helping them to find what's already there. You know, a bit like the title of Andrew's book, isn't it, really? It's finding the real you, and helping them to realize their potential. So finding this phrase, he thought it was great, so he started to use it within his own sort of suggestions. So I've got a very brief script here, which is just, I mean, you don't have to use it exactly in this form, but this is what Andrew developed as his kind of script around this, but I'll just briefly read out to you, which is all based around the power within you. So feel around for that area in your life that's challenging or seems difficult or is causing you any kind of struggle, pressure, anxiety, or whatever it may be. And know with absolute certainty that whatever challenges lie ahead for you, they are nothing compared to the power within you. Whatever challenges lie ahead of you are nothing compared to the power within you. And you can remember that, and if it's okay with you, my voice will go with you, just being there with you, for you, supporting you, helping you, encouraging you, reassuring you, and reminding you wherever it may be useful and whenever it's appropriate. Whatever challenges lie ahead for you are nothing compared to the power within you. So very sort of powerful suggestion, and quite nice, I think, for clients when they're working towards that big goal, whatever that may be, to just pop in a sort of a version of this, implying that power within each individual that you're working with. And I always find that clients really quite like that sort of feeling that you're there, you're with them, you're supporting them, you're guiding them, and you're there for as long as they need you. And something I quite often add into this myself is just say, you know, and eventually my voice will turn into your voice, because at the end of the day, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. So it's all about the client doing this for themselves. Really nice sort of way to empower your clients and remind them that you always have that power within them. So that might be a nice one to include. Okay, now before we move on to the exercise that we're going to do, just checking how we're doing for time, I'm going to give you a little bit of homework this week based around this goal and achievements, because we haven't really got time to do it in this module as a practice, because it's quite a long thing. It's going to take you quite a bit of time to do this. And also, I'd really prefer you to work with somebody that you don't already have a lot of background on. Okay, so somebody that might be a friend of a friend, somebody that might be a Facebook friend even. You could actually just say you're looking for a volunteer on your Facebook page somewhere. So the idea is with this is that you interview somebody who is a prospective client. So this could be quite a nice way of getting a testimonial, even at this early stage, if you can give somebody a little bit of help. But somebody that you don't know that well, and interview them about what it is they might like to solve, whatever it is. So somebody hopefully with some sort of goal of something that they want to either stop or achieve or whatever. And in the same way as we do any of these other sessions, really helping to sort of drill down and dig down into what they don't want and what they do want. Okay, so using that formula. With that as well, obviously looking for those core beliefs within that discussion, trying to find out what it is that's stopping them and how do you help them to create that environment. You're looking for any fears, any emotions there. And overall, you're trying to really get an understanding of what they need to believe in order to achieve what it is they want. Okay, so whatever that is. And what I want you to do is to try and work with that person to create a goal achievement plan of some sort, using the model that Andrew's created, okay, with the stepping stone boxes. And then just do a very brief hypnosis session with them using a deepener of your choice, and deliver some very basic suggestions as a beginner to help them, and perhaps use the power within you as well, particularly on, you know, perhaps as you return them to awareness or towards the end of the session. So it's quite a tall order. There's no hurry for you to do this, but I just think it would be quite nice for you to practice this on somebody that you don't know, that isn't doing the course and that you don't have a background on. And it might be that this person, you might be able to do a few sessions with them as we move along the line and be able to actually really help them. And as I said, this could lead to something where you might be able to get testimonials. And I would say anybody you work with at this stage, even, you know, presuming this is, you've got your student insurance to do this, obviously, but anybody that you work with from now on, try and collect these testimonials, because when you actually get to the point of setting up your practice, it's a really good way to actually let people know how you've helped them. And it was certainly the way that I started. I did a lot of free clients to begin with, and that was a way I got a lot of testimonials to begin with. So it gives people a bit of a confidence in you as well. Okay, so I think that's actually in your module anyway. So, you know, the actual brief for that. But yeah, again, no hurry, but when you can, I think that would be a really good thing to try out on somebody when you feel you've got the confidence to do it, and try to put that goal and achievement plan into place. Okay. Okay, any questions about that before I move on to the exercise? No? Okay. Right, what we're going to do now, it's an observation exercise. I'm going to talk you through it because there's a certain thing to go through. You've got it all written down in your module, but I think it might be helpful to talk through it just to make sure you understand what you're doing here. It's an extension on from the observation exercise we did earlier on, which was about just looking for minimal cues. So obviously be aware of those as well. But it's more about looking for some of the emotions that you will see with a client in a session, positive and negative, okay? And, you know, you will find that when you're talking to your clients, you're interviewing them, when they're actually in hypnosis, whilst they're processing that information, they will give off signs, visual signs of what they might be feeling at that time. And, you know, sort of indicators of how they're actually feeling inside about what it is that you may be talking about. So as I said, this is on top of those minimal cues. That's a sort of a separate thing, but obviously part of it. So when you're working with clients, really important that you can be aware of where that client is, you know, in their emotional state. You're not in their head, obviously. You're not going to know exactly what it is, but to know when perhaps you've triggered an adverse response or a happy response, just looking for those cues. And sometimes that might mean that you might completely adjust what you were planning to do with that client based on how they might be behaving. And that's something you need to get into the habit of as you get more and more experienced, of adjusting how you go. No one session will go the same. So you really work with the client. As I constantly say, each individual will be very different. So you can't always have a plan of how that's going to go. So really good exercise this is to just get you to become more aware of just some of those non-verbal cues and what they're telling you about what's going on. And this is something that NLP practitioners actually use a lot, and we will do a little bit of NLP further down the line. But this was something that was first introduced to Andrew by a guy called Nick Davis, who was an NLP practitioner, I believe. So there's a link there for you to look at in your handbooks if you want to know a little bit more about that. But we will do more of this a little bit later on as well. So just talking you through what you're going to do, and you're going to have probably 10-15 minutes per person to do this, working in threes today. So the first thing you're going to do in your threes, obviously normal formula of therapist, observer and client. And so you're going to be looking at the first step to access the negative feeling. Okay, so you've got your person there who's being the client. So you might say, you might just say to them, I want you to take a deep breath, and as you breathe out, close your eyes and remember a time in your life when something did not go well for you. In fact, something that made you feel bad in some way, but don't say it out loud. Now, please bear in mind, you're only asking them to close their eyes to do this. So you're not putting them into hypnosis. You're just asking them to go there in their mind to that particular negative thing. So you're encouraging them to access that negative feeling and how they felt. They might visualize it, they might feel it, whatever. It's something the NLP practitioners, they refer to the stuck state. And you will find a lot of your clients will tell you they feel stuck. That is a common thing that you will come across. So you'll then go on to say, immerse yourself in the memory, remembering the feelings, the emotions, how you felt, and how you're feeling, as if you were feeling them once again. And take a mental snapshot, that picture of the scene, and store those feelings and emotions as well. And just encourage them through it as much as you can. And if you start to see somebody who's feeling, you know, I'm sure you've seen Andrew do it on some of the actual client sessions, just encouraging them, making sure that it's okay. And if it's difficult, you know, try to work through it. Just try and be very responsive to how they're behaving. So the next step, while this is actually occurring, so both the therapist and the observer start to take notes of some of the things that you might notice about the client while they're accessing this negative state. So any eye movements, a bit like the minimal cues, you might see the darting about, moving behind the eyelids, different things like that. Body movements, body postures as well. Sometimes you'll find they'll get really, really tense because they're resisting it, particularly when it's a negative emotion. So, you know, that tensing, their breathing, what's happening there, even skin color changes, especially around the face and the neck as well. So try and keep a note. Now, this is probably easier for the observer than it is for the therapist at this stage because you're focusing on trying to get it right. I appreciate that. So you're looking for those. So that's your step 2. Again, this is all written down. I'm just literally talking you through it to make sure that you're clear on what you're doing here. You then break the state in step 3. So you don't ask them to open their eyes. They stay with their eyes shut, but you ask them to clear their mind of that negative feeling and bring their attention back to the room. So you're not asking them to open their eyes, keeping their eyes closed, and then just take a deep breath in and then out, and just get them to focus on just normality, something in the room or just the comfy chair or something like that. Just simple questions, keeping it very much in the present again. So you're taking them out of that negative memory. And then step 4, you're getting them to access and observe a positive. So same process as before, but except this time you're asking them to take an emotional sort of snapshot, feeling, sensing, seeing, something that felt really positive. So you're trying to get them to access that. And as I said, NLP practitioners will call this the success state. Okay, so you're really getting them to totally be in that positive feeling. And again, watch for all of those particular sort of cues. And then you break the state again. When you're content that you've got enough from that, break the state. And ask them to come back to the present. Again, eyes still closed at this point. So clearing their mind of that particular memory and just talk to them about something normal, maybe something that happened that day or something like that. So you then, after this, ask them to choose to immerse themselves in one or other of those feelings. It could be a different one. But either positive or negative, but the client will choose, okay? And then what I want the observer and the therapist to do is to kind of guess by what you're seeing, whether they're in a negative or a positive memory, okay? So based on what you've actually gathered from that, where they are. And then you just swap around and do it with the next person, okay? So a quick sort of recount of that afterwards, and in terms of time, I think we're nearly 8:15, so try and be as quick as you can so that you've got enough time. So say 10 minutes, 5 minutes to have a quick chat about it, and then on to the next one, so that you can practice that. Okay, is that clear? Yeah.
Debbie,
Yes. Yep.
in page 2, when you're remembering the negative,
Yeah.
it tells you to store the feelings.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't like that.
No, I understand that. Yeah.
Positive. It doesn't say to store them.
Yeah, no, I get that. If you store it, it feels like that doesn't go away, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you feel uncomfortable with that, I can understand that, to be honest. What do you think about that, Heather? Because that is suggesting that you're keeping it there, whether you want to or not, isn't it?
Keeping it where?
Just keeping it within you. So saying store that feeling. If you're
Yeah,
storing something, it suggests you're putting it somewhere and keeping it there, doesn't it?
But I thought for the purpose of this, you're storing it for that time while
Yeah.
you're thinking about it. Then you
Yeah.
break the state, so you let them go. Just
Yeah.
blow it away. Let the feelings go. Otherwise you can't switch to the other states.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think actually just maybe change the way you say that. So storing that feeling just for now. Okay. So that when you come to break the state, you can let it go. Okay. So you can vary that the way you say it a little.
Yeah.
But yeah, I understand why you picked up on that, to be honest, because it does sound like if you store it, it suggests you're keeping it, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions before we get into that? No? Okay. Right. Let's just get rid of this. Okay, Heather, if it's all right with you, I think we're ready to go into our rooms.
Okay, got more set up. It's
Yep.
getting more and more difficult to keep people apart who've worked together recently. So
We're doing different things, aren't we? So that doesn't really matter.
So you ready to disappear then? No questions?
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
We're okay.
But I'm literally 3 foot away from the pavement, so it's quite funny, really.
So how did you all get on with that? Anybody got anything that they want to say?
Go on, Celia. How did you get on with it?
We had fun. We all managed to get our respective guesses correct, so that was good. Yeah, we're saying it's different being the therapist than the observer, obviously, but having that kind of intuition almost as therapist, because you can't rely on writing things down and stuff like that. So it is much more of a picking up on feelings, perhaps a bit more than the actual mechanics of it all. So
yeah,
we
I
found.
think everybody I watched, certainly everybody guessed. You could tell quite obviously. I think once you know what you're looking for, or you know you're actually watching for it, it becomes quite obvious, doesn't it, what's going on? So it is just tapping into that. Yeah, well done on everybody. I mean, practice that on other people. You can, as I said, you can practice that on anybody, really, couldn't you? Just get them to do that. So keep practicing outside of this as well. I know I say that every week, but the more you do that, the better it's going to be. So yeah, that's good. Any questions regarding tomorrow? Because you all know what we're doing tomorrow. And so I think we'll be putting you into twos, so that you've got plenty of time with each other tomorrow. Yeah. So if you've got no questions, I can let everybody go. About on time, I think, as well. Maybe even with 2 minutes to spare. Okay. I think I'm losing my voice tonight. So just as well I'm not doing too much talking tomorrow, I think.
When's the deadline for the homework to be done by, Debbie?
It's not really a deadline. It's more, I think it's more about getting you to do it with somebody. So it doesn't, you know, when you feel comfortable. If you could do it this week, that'd be great. You might find you want to do it a bit further down the line, but it's just something, an exercise I think would be really useful for you to do.
Right.
You might, I mean, particularly doing it with somebody that you don't know, because you haven't got that background as well. So you are, you know, and sometimes that's easier, I think you'll find. I personally find sometimes working with somebody I don't know is easier than somebody I do, because you're not making any assumptions, because you don't know. But yeah, there's no deadline on that.
Right.
Debbie,
Yeah.
bearing in mind that it is still lockdown,
Yeah.
if you can't get someone that you don't really know, is it okay to do it on someone that you do a bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's better to do it than not do it at all, definitely.
Yeah.
So if you can't, but a good way to get people would be over, you know, if you are active Facebook users or Instagram or whatever, and just say, when you volunteer that you might give a free session for people, you have them lining up. So, so if you are active users of Facebook, then that's quite a good way to get people. And you can do that on Zoom, can't you? So, or even Facebook video, you can do that on Facebook video.
How would you describe that whole process? Because it came across to me as being more sort of coaching than
There is a bit
hypnosis.
coaching about it, yeah. I mean, you could put something that you particularly would like to help somebody. So you could put something like, is anybody looking to lose some weight? You know, that might like a free session. So we could do something that would work very well for a goal planning kind of thing.
I was just wondering how you describe it to someone, because people know that I'm doing a hypnosis course, but there wasn't really any hypnosis in that exercise. So
Oh, there is in that. There will be.
I'll beg your pardon.
Well, that not in the initial bit, but if you were going at the end of it, there is a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
I had a training with Claire, and Claire said some people wanted to engage with passwords because it felt a bit too deep when we did the do once, don't once.
But engage with passwords.
Yeah,
Safe
so can you explain, Claire?
Heather knows, don't
Heather,
you?
on Friday, on Friday we said sometimes people felt that they were being forced or made to disclose something they didn't want to disclose at the time.
Okay.
So we came up with, you had a safe word.
Okay.
And the safe word, the safe word was banana on Friday.
Okay.
And I said, if I try and explain this to Andrew, he'll be wondering what the heck you and I have turned his course into. He was all right when I mentioned it this morning, actually. I said, so if you were working with, so our safe word, if someone was asking too deep a question and you just didn't want to reveal that, we had a safe word of banana. So that was what that was. If you come to Friday, it's a totally different experience.
Yes. That's all about bananas, clearly.
It was just the word that came to mind that would have no other. Why else would you say it? I mean,
fair enough. No, that's probably a good idea at this stage as well, I think.
Oh, shall we do that tomorrow? That my question was about, shall we do that tomorrow then? Because sometimes
yes, you can dig too deep. It's a little bit too soon.
Okay.
No, that's fine. So if somebody's getting very uncomfortable and feeling a little bit resistant, yeah.
Safe word tomorrow is banana. Hang on, this is on the recording bit. Shall I get Antoinette to turn this bit off?
I mean, banana is the word for tomorrow, but if anybody thinks of anything they feel more comfortable with, they just let us know at the beginning of their session. Okay.
Well, that puts smiles on all their faces.
Please don't worry about the homework as in it's got to be done by next week or anything like that. It's really when you feel you can take an opportunity to do that on somebody. You might find it's a little bit further down the line that you feel confident with that. But because we're not doing it in, we haven't actually got it in the practice session because we kind of run out of time on this module. I just suggest that you do it on somebody at some point.
Actually, doing the goal achievement plan for yourself on what you want to do with this course, what's your ultimate goal, what's your vision for when you finish this course, and what stepping stones do you think you need, and just doing it for yourself, that will help you get into it.
Yeah, actually what we could probably do, I mean, I'd say if you can do it with somebody else, great, but perhaps what we can do is we can pick up in another module when you feel a little bit closer down the line, and we can go back to that. What do you think, Heather? So that because a lot of you might not quite know what those goals are yet.
It's interesting to do it at the beginning and then you do it a bit further down the line and just see if that's still holding. Because mine at the beginning was mine at the beginning was, I don't think I'll do much with this after I've done the course. No, I might help a few people, but I'm really not going to be doing much with this. That's my goal achievement plan at the beginning.
Yeah, well, I mean, to say no pressure on that one as yet, but we will revisit it anyway. Okay, so don't worry about that. Okay, but just get yourself prepared for tomorrow. Looking forward to tomorrow. Okay, putting it all together, and have a nice rest of the evening. And we'll see you at 7 tomorrow.
I dare you not to dream of bananas.
I'm going to dream about bananas now. That's if I go to sleep.
Birds and bananas.
Okay, well, good night, everybody. See you.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.